So, Mr. Warren, it looks like everyone is in attendance right now. Oh, there's Dr. Schmidt. So I'll let you decide when you're ready to proceed.
Are we allowed to get in the meeting?
I'm sorry, I heard a question. Who asked the question?
There is an open meeting at 7:30. Why am I not in it?
Mr. Baker, you're a panelist.
So I want to be in the meeting.
As an attendee also?
Yeah, sure. Let me in.
Jason, is that possible to do?
I mean, you've given a link to the public. I can sign in on that.
So if I assign him as an attendee, it will take him out as a panelist. The attendees see the same thing the panelists do. The panelists will see the same thing the attendees do.
Mr. Baker, you're here in the open meeting. You are a participant in it and you will see.
No, I can't see anything. So I'm looking at you and I'm looking at that. I'm not in the meeting. So let me in the meeting.
Well, I don't think that's possible. You're a participant in the meeting and you're here.
Well, now we've got a problem. I get to participate in the open meeting. You gave me a link that does not allow me to do that. So you all have got me in a little room outside of a meeting. So let me in that meeting or I'm signing off and I guess I'll go sign on that other one so I can participate in the meeting. Now you all did this. It's not my problem. So tell me what you're going to do. I want in.
All right, Mr. Baker, let's remain courteous, please. I'm not sure I understand what the problem is. Can you see the panelists in the meeting? Can you see me?
I cannot see the open meeting is what I want to be in the open meeting. Will you let me in there?
Well, then I think you would have to forfeit being a panelist and join as an attendee.
Really? Who are you?
My name is Melissa Hillman. I'm general counsel for Blue Valley.
And you and I have talked. So you're going to say if I want to participate and have my case heard today, I cannot be in the open meeting.
Unfortunately, I don't think the technology will allow for that.
Well, I think it will. Let's do this. When it's my time, I'm going to log in on the website that you have given, the Blue Valley. You've sent out a notice, haven't you, to the public?
I believe so.
All right. And that link, yeah, where is it? Huh. All right. I'm going to find it and then I'm going to log in on it. And then when it comes time, you can email me or something to tell me that now I can participate as the panelist.
I think if you're participating as an attendee, we'll let you know when your time is up during the meeting. So thank you, Mr. Baker.
No, that's not what I said.
We will do our best, Mr. Baker. Jason, would you please mute Mr. Baker? And Mr. Warren, can we proceed? Mr. Warren, you're muted. Jason, can you unmute Roger Warren, please?
Okay. All right. Can you hear me now? All right.
Yes.
Well, good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Roger Warren. I'm a local attorney in Johnson County. I've been practicing about 30 years. And my practice these days is limited to mediations and arbitrations. And I was appointed by the school board to hear these matters. I have no relationship with the Blue Valley School District. So I want to remind everybody they're going to have 30 minutes to present each party. And I will keep the time. I'll do my best. Yesterday, we were going to have a timekeeper, but I'm now the dual timekeeper and hearing officer, so I will try to be accurate. It's my intention to be fair to everyone. I'm going to try to do that. Hopefully everyone will be respectful and courteous today. And I think Ms. Klingensmith is the first case. And I think she's unmuted from the screen. So Ms. Klingensmith, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Are you, do you have an attorney or are you representing yourself? I wasn't clear yesterday. We really never had a chance to visit.
I'm representing myself. However, I did send an email to Sarah Vaughn yesterday regarding this meeting, and I did forward it to Melissa, and I've not heard back asking for a continuance. So I'd like to address that first before we move forward.
All right. Go ahead.
I asked for a continuance as we are seeking legal counsel, and I sent that to Sarah yesterday before the end of close of business, and then I forwarded it to Melissa this morning, since I've not heard back from Sarah, and I've left both Sarah and Melissa voicemails.
Okay. Well, I'm here to hear this today, and I'm not exactly in charge of setting the meetings. I'm just here as the hearing officer. So I have no ability to rule on that one way or another. Ms. Hillman, I don't know if you want to weigh in from the perspective of the district or not.
So Mr. Warren, as I sat down to get on this virtual hearing, I received an email from Ms. Klingensmith at 7:15, 7:20, forwarding to me an email she sent after business hours last night. At this time, I would object to continuing this hearing. This is the second time we've tried to convene. If Ms. Klingensmith is unhappy or dissatisfied with the outcome of this hearing, it can be appealed to the district court and she'll have an opportunity to have counsel at that time.
Okay.
I would like to state that my email was sent at 4:54 p.m. as well as I received email on Monday from Sarah Vaughn at 6:43 p.m. outside of normal business days. So I would like to object to that because I don't feel that that's fair, that you're going to hold me to one set of standards, that I have to send something in before 5 o'clock where Sarah was able to send something to me after hours regarding the TV cameras.
Okay. Well, I'm here to hear your case right now. So from my perspective, if you would like to proceed, I'd ask you to proceed. And if you don't want to proceed, that's up to you. Whether you'll be allowed another opportunity, I don't know. From my perspective, you're here now, the hearing's been called. And I think this is the appropriate time to hear your case. It's really entirely up to you if you want to proceed or not. So you just let me know, and I'm happy to accommodate you in any way I can, but I'm here to hear your matter right now.
I still would like to seek counsel before moving forward. I do not, since there is no case law on this, I think that I need to seek counsel before moving forward.
Well, it's fair that there's no case law in a brand new statute. I would agree with you on that. So you're not going to proceed, is that my understanding?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess it's going to be the district's decision as to whether or not you'll be granted another opportunity. From my perspective, you've been granted an opportunity both yesterday and today to be heard. So
I would actually like to state on record, I was not granted that opportunity, that I showed up for the meeting. The meeting was canceled. Not one employee from Blue Valley asked me if I would like to continue the meeting once the gentleman left the room. So I'm not sure that the meeting was canceled fairly. Everyone who was there still wanted to have the meeting. So I'm not sure why we were not able to rejoin and continue on with that meeting.
Well, I'm as sorry as anyone that we couldn't continue the hearing yesterday. That was out of my control. Well, my point was only that you were there yesterday and appeared to be prepared to present. So if you don't want to continue, that's fine. That's your decision. Whether or not you'll be allowed another opportunity, I'm not clear about that. I'm just being candid with you. I'm not representing you. It's not my role to be your lawyer. I'm just telling you that you have an opportunity now to present. And if you choose not to, I don't know if you'll be given another opportunity. So that's my only statement to you. But if you don't want to continue, that's fine. We'll move on to the next person. But I want to make sure I'm clear that you've been given every opportunity to make the decision you want to make here. So are you going to then not proceed, or what do you want to do?
Well, I am concerned with the way that this has been handled. I don't believe that this has been done fairly. So I truly just think that I need to seek an attorney at this point.
Okay, well, that's certainly, you're right. I've given you all the guidance I can as to whether or not you'll be given another opportunity, and I don't know that. So I'm sorry that we can't continue, but if it's your decision to not continue, since you don't have counsel, that's fine. That's your call, and we'll move on to the next individual. Is that all right?
That's fine by me. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Klingensmith, thank you very much. I'm sorry we didn't have a chance to visit yesterday. I was going to come over and meet you, and then we were not able to ever get started.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe the next individual is Julie Myrick, I believe. Julie, are you there? I see that she's muted right now, so we're gonna have to unmute
Yes,
her.
I am here.
All right, Julie. I don't believe I ever saw you yesterday, so I don't know if you have your camera on so we can see you or not.
I do not have my camera on.
Okay, well, I would like to be able to see you. I enjoy visiting with people eyeball to eyeball, but it's up to you if you don't want to be on camera. So
I agree. I would have preferred to have this face to face as well.
well, and I would have too. So it's unfortunate that events outside probably both our controls cause us to have to do it this way. So let me ask you the same question I asked Ms. Klingensmith. Are you represented by counsel or are you representing yourself?
I am not represented by counsel, and I too requested a continuance to obtain counsel as well.
Okay. Well, I think you heard my conversation with Ms. Klingensmith just now about I don't know if that continuance will be granted. That's really out of my control. You're here and you have an opportunity to present today. The statute is, I've read the statute a number of times. You probably have as well. There are a lot of very tight timelines in here, and I know there was an attempt to schedule this last week, and then it's been moved and now been moved again. So again, I'm not your lawyer. I'm not advising you as a lawyer. It's entirely your decision. If you don't want to proceed today and you want to seek counsel and seek an attempt to have it heard again, that's entirely up to you. Whether that request will be granted or not, I don't know that I have the ability to grant that. So I'm going to tell you the same thing I told her. Do you understand that? And is it your decision to not proceed?
I do understand that, and I at this time am willing to proceed.
Okay, that's great. Do you have any witnesses? I was going to try to visit with everybody before the hearing yesterday and find out if you had any witnesses and get names down, but I didn't have that chance till now. So are you going to have any witnesses today? I want to get their names and everything.
Well, it appears that there are several witnesses to this as it has gone out to all of Blue Valley. So there are 11 panelists and 805 attendees.
Well, I didn't know whether you brought anyone to testify or give evidence as your witness is what I meant. Or was
No,
it just going to be, it's just going to be you? All right. Well, if you're prepared, then go ahead and proceed. And as I think I've told you before, we have 30 minutes. So
Okay.
please proceed. And if you have any questions for me as we proceed about anything we're doing, just let me know, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
And I guess I just would like to state on record that I did submit a request for a hearing to discuss the mask mandate and my children as individual grievance. As a parent, the school board has not made me feel over the last few days that my children matter, just in regards to how this has been handled. SB 40 was created to provide individuals a way to file a grievance without the need nor cost of an attorney. However, after what has occurred, I asked for continuance of today's meeting to seek legal counsel. The district denied this request by not responding to my request. I would like to know under what authority and law a public school district is allowed the ability to deny a parent the right to seek legal counsel prior to a hearing. Yesterday, I was denied an in-person hearing, which could have continued after the gentleman left the room. My hearing did not occur within the 72 hours as it is expected under SB 40. The district displayed evidence that they are more focused on a gentleman sitting in a socially distanced manner, not wearing a mask. I was denied my right to due process without discussion or my consent. The district has an obligation to ensure hearings occur within 72 hours and that I am provided the opportunity to present my grievance. Then without discussion with me, the district dictated that the meeting will be virtual, denying me again an in-person meeting and dictating that it will be at a time determined by the district. Not one Blue Valley employee spoke to me yesterday about decisions being made, actions being taken, conversations happening about canceling the hearing, but rather dictated everybody exit the hearing room. Who had the authority to cancel the meeting? Even after the room was empty, no one asked for me to step aside to review next steps or discuss the situation. District representatives disappeared as we exited the building. I stated early on that I was concerned regarding the privacy of my children. It was initially confirmed to me via email that no information regarding my children would be released. This was followed up by a voicemail from Melissa Hillman, General Counsel, informing me she was unable to ensure the privacy of my children because the hearing was mandated to be open by law. She offered to discuss the situation and provided me with her direct phone number. I left her a voicemail on Monday and have yet to hear from her. This was initially open to a limited number of people. Now, superintendent has opened this meeting to the entire district and public. She has yet to reach out to me individually as a concerned parent. Additionally, I was initially told there would be no live streaming or cameras in yesterday's hearing. Then at 6:43 p.m. Monday night, I received email communication that cameras would be allowed, but no live streaming. Now we are live streaming in a video session that I did not agree to. I feel these actions taken by the district are an attempt to ensure that I do not receive a fair hearing. I did expect the district to honor my request to seek legal counsel. I understand now that they have denied that request. Now I will go to my initial grievance. One moment, please. Thank you for this opportunity for due process to hear my concerns as a parent. SB 40 has created a mechanism for individuals like me to question mandates and health orders such as Blue Valley Schools mandated mask policy that impacts my children. I am not anti-mask. I believe masking can be beneficial for protecting high-risk populations and those who are immunocompromised. I do object to placing the heavy burden of controlling the spread of COVID-19 on our most vulnerable population, our children, who are incapable of carrying out this policy effectively. Kids do not wear masks properly. They eat them and suck on them. They come home moist and covered in filth, a breeding ground for bacteria that they are rebreathing throughout the day. Bacteria can concentrate in the nasal passage, enter the olfactory nerves, and travel into their brains. Let's culture a mask and see what's growing on it. What impact will this have on our children in the future? My oldest son has reported difficulty breathing, increased dizziness, and severe headaches with prolonged mask use. His pulmonary function has decreased in the last 6 months, which can have significant impact on a child with asthma. He has not been sick. A mask for 7 hours per day on those days in which he is in school. My youngest son has reported increased anxiety and difficulty breathing. This in a child with epilepsy, whose seizures can be triggered by increased physical and/or psychological stress. These are the short-term consequences. What are the long-term consequences of prolonged mask use in school-aged children? Please provide scientific evidence that the welfare of my children is not being put into jeopardy by this mask mandate. Please provide scientific evidence that this mandate is more of a benefit to the children in our community than a detriment. Implement a mandate that does no harm. Confirm that this mandate is the least restrictive means to controlling the spread of COVID-19 in our school-aged children. Hand washing has been scientifically proven to be effective at reducing the spread of viruses. Could this be a least restrictive, better alternative? Data shows that school-aged children are low risk for contracting and spreading COVID-19. Data also shows that there is very little difference in cases of COVID-19 in schools with and without mask mandates. Again, data shows that has been no spike in schools where mask mandates have been removed or as initially feared. Is a mask mandate necessary in a population that is low risk? We shouldn't mandate masks if it is not deemed necessary. What's good for one is not good for all. There is currently insufficient evidence that wearing a mask in school can have a significant impact on preventing the spread of this virus. For those who choose to wear masks, they should be allowed to do so. Reasonable social distancing, masking indoors in certain situations, and basic sanitation can go a long way in preventing the spread of COVID-19 in school-age populations. Additionally, many of our children have safely resumed playing outdoor sports, playing with friends after school, etc., while unmasked. If our children are doing these activities that are deemed to be safe in our school districts, city, and county for hours per week successfully without spreading COVID-19, why are masks still mandated in schools? At the very least, allow children to be unmasked at recess and/or PE, or allow for mask breaks throughout the day, and/or allow the parents and students choice. There are social, psychological, and academic consequences in addition to the physical consequences stated above. Our children need to see the faces of their peers and teachers to build relationships. Additionally, masks create a communication barrier as it is difficult to hear and understand someone who is wearing a mask. This communication barrier impacts learning. For our younger elementary students, our children need to see the faces of their teachers, to see their mouths move so they can learn how to properly pronounce and enunciate words. My first grader continues to struggle with reading, and my fourth grader's test scores have dropped significantly. I hear regularly, follow the science. What is the science? What study supports that masked children prevents the spread of COVID-19 better than unmasked children in schools? I would like to trust that you are following the science by providing proof to support the mask mandate, providing studies and expert testimony that show the causal relationship between unmasked students spreading COVID-19 more than their unmasked peers. Kansas legislators ended the mask mandate last week, and the CDC does not mandate masks. The incidence of COVID-19 has not been higher in districts without a mask mandate compared to those with mandates. So why does Blue Valley continue to mandate masks? In closing, parents should be making healthcare decisions for our children, not the school board. As a parent, I should be able to decide what is in the best interest of my children when it comes to making medical decisions. Based on current data, being compelled to wear a face mask for prolonged periods of time is not in the best interest of my children. Data does not support that the mandated mask wearing reduces the number of COVID-19 cases in school-age populations. I understand we all bear the responsibility of protecting the health and safety of our students. I also understand that some people may oppose my view, and I respect their right to do so. I simply ask that decisions and/or policy implementation regarding the health and safety of our students be based on evidence, scientific and medical, rather than opinion and fear. There is currently little or no scientific or medical evidence that masks in school-age children prevent the spread of COVID-19. Thank you for your time and consideration and for allowing me the opportunity to voice my concerns in regard to my children during this sensitive time.
All right, Mrs. Myrick, thank you very much. Is there anything further from you?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it very much. Excuse me. Okay,
Mr. Warren,
yes.
may I respond by way of explanation only and not argument to Ms. Myrick's initial comments today?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to say that this is certainly not the district's first option for a hearing. It would have been in the district's preference. It would have been our preference to have this hearing in person. Both Ms. Myrick and Ms. Klingensmith voiced strenuous objections to wearing a mask inside the hearing. Obviously, we had some masking issues yesterday. Therefore, we thought that the most efficient way to hold this hearing would be virtually. Because this meeting must be held live stream, when we move our open meetings into a virtual setting, we live stream them in order to satisfy our open meetings requirements. And also, the district certainly is not denying either parent a right to counsel. They certainly would have had that right at any time. But at this point, we're working under a deadline to have a hearing, and we just need to move forward with the hearing, in my opinion. So thank you.
All right, Ms. Hillman, are you finished?
Yes, Mr. Warren.
Okay. So
May I
think
respond, please?
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
I would just like to say that I did object to wearing a mask. I do have a medical exemption and I was denied that.
Okay. Anything further, Ms. Myrick? You're muted, Ms. Myrick. Was there anything further from you?
No, there is nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Is everything completed now with regard to Mrs. Myrick's objections and issues from both sides? As far as I know, Ms. Hillman, you're going to have a response to everybody here in a little bit, but as far as the issues we were discussing now with Ms. Myrick, is there anything further with regard to the procedural issues and the issues you were talking about?
No, Mr. Warren, thank you.
Okay, all right. And then Mr. Baker, I think you're next. So I know you were out of the, I'm a little unclear whether you're in this meeting now. It looks like I see you, so you must be in the group. And you're unmuted. So are you prepared to proceed, Mr. Baker?
Well, I have several objections. Mr.
Okay.
Warren. So
Give me just a second here and let me get a fresh piece of paper.
you probably need 2 pieces of paper.
Well, I have a whole thing here. I'm ready for you.
All
So-
right, get with it.
But I can only write so fast, so you got to give me some time here. I'll do the best I can.
Well, it's recorded, so you can go back.
That's
like
true.
Any good court reporter. Well, let me introduce myself first. My name is Linus Baker. I'm a licensed attorney in Kansas and Missouri. I have raised 8 children in the Blue Valley School District. That's been done. I am married to my wife, Terry Baker. We are now back in the parenting business as grandparents, raising a 6-year-old child. His name is Silas Ford Baker. So I've been through this rodeo several years before and back in it again, never thought I would. But I represent Terry, I represent Silas. So I don't know who's in this panel. And I don't know what the rules are to this proceeding, but let me, you haven't had any entry of appearances. I see people. I don't know why they're in this particular panel. I don't know if they're going to present evidence or testimony. None of that has been told to me, but let's start first things first, Mr. Warren.
Well,
you and I've met, it's been several years ago.
Yeah, we have met. My understanding, Mr. Baker, is that everybody that's on the screen is going to eventually provide evidence. Ms. Klingensmith's on here, Ms. Myrick's on here, you and I, and Ms. Hillman. And I think the court reporter, Ms. Sherwood's on here. I see her. I think the other folks are going to be witnesses, is my understanding. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, well, I see a Mr. Mark Schmidt. So one of the questions is going to be if you're going to allow cross-examination. If they're going to testify, do I get to cross-examine?
You know, it wasn't my intention to allow cross-examination. I was just going to allow everybody to present their evidence.
Well, let me stop you right there.
Let's visit about that. I mean, tell me what you want to do.
Well, that's one of the problems here, Mr. Warren, is there's no rules. This is rodeo time. There are no rules. Are there any emergency rules of procedure that the board has enacted for this? No, I don't think there are they?
No, and as far as I'm concerned, we're not operating under the rules of evidence as if you and I were in front of a judge. It's my intention to take all the evidence in, whether it's presented in the proper format or not, and give everything the due weight it deserves. But anyway, proceed.
Okay, well, so we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. There are no published rules. We're going to make it up as we go along. And that's not really fair. But I'll get to that in just a minute. Let's start with the more crucial point of this, which is SB 40 requires the Board of Education to conduct a meeting. And you're not doing that right now. There is no quorum. SB 40 says any meeting of a Board of Education of a school district discussing any action, order, or policy described in this section, including any hearing by the board under subsection C, shall be open to the public in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Okay. And then it goes down, upon receipt of a request under paragraph 1, the Board of Education shall conduct a hearing. Now, we're not having a meeting. The Board of Education is not present as far as I know. Now, they may be viewing, I don't know. But there is no quorum. A quorum under policy 1660 and 1681, quorum of the board shall consist of 4 members. Any regular or special meeting, the board shall take no action in the absence of a quorum. And the board is taking action. You are here conducting a hearing. You are taking evidence. But yet we have no meeting. We have no quorum. And I'm entitled to have this grievance presented to the Board of Education, a quorum. And I'm not being provided that. You haven't provided it to any of the other grievance. So I think it's illegitimate. I don't think you're following SB 40 for those reasons. And so I guess I'm going to ask you to have the board convene a meeting, and thus we'll have an open meeting, and then with a quorum, and then I get to talk to the board. I guess you're not going to allow me to do that, are you?
Well, I don't really have the authority to do that. As I said at the beginning, the board appointed me to be a hearing officer. I have no connection with the board. I'm not their lawyer. I'm not giving anybody advice. I'm here to do what I've been asked to do. So I guess I'd say to you what I said to the other folks. If you want to present your evidence, that's fine. I'm happy to receive it. If you want to object and ask for a board, I saw in your material that you had filed that was forwarded to me that you were requesting a full board hearing. And I believe the board's taken the position that they can use a hearing officer and have the hearing officer report to them. I understand your arguments. I have no ability to force the board to do anything. So you do what you want to do.
No, I appreciate that, Mr. Warren. Let's get to the next part, which is another objection, which is this is quasi-judicial. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding, and the board cannot delegate that to you. The legislature has given them the authority under the SB 40 to conduct this hearing, and it's a quasi-judicial proceeding. You're taking evidence, weighing evidence, and all of that. In Kansas, they cannot delegate that to a third party. You're just somebody. You're an employee. I don't even know who you're with, what firm. And we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. But they hired you to do their job, which is unconstitutional. They have to do it. So they can't delegate it to you. They've done it. And in fact, what's going to happen here, the Kansas legislature provided in SB 40 that the public, how should I say it, should see how the sausage is made. They get to see the deliberative process in an open meeting by the board. Well, that's not going to happen, because what they've done is they said, Mr. Warren, you're going to go deliberate and you're going to go do it in private. And then we won't see your deliberative process. And then you're going to come back later and you're going to present what you call findings and recommendations. That's not in that Senate Bill 40. That they just made that up. And then you're going to present that to the board. And they'll say, well, we'll either adopt it or we won't. No one will ever see the deliberative process in an open meeting. And that's improper. That completely subverts SB 40. Now, so I object to you. I object to this hearing officer. I object to the delegation that you're going to do the board's job, and that now you're going to go back into your office where you are in 7 days, and you're going to weigh this evidence and make your findings, and then come back and give some sort of decision. So I think that's improper. But you said you don't have anything to do because you've been hired to do this hearing. So that's that objection. Now, I talked about it before, rules of procedure. This hearing and this process is not fair. Ms. Hillman emailed me yesterday. I filed a complaint, grievance. I got an email from Ms. Hillman, who she hasn't, I don't think, identified herself for the record, but she is some sort of an attorney for the Blue Valley. And she told me I filed a grievance yesterday at 4:18. She wrote me at 5 yesterday and said, oh, you're going to be heard tomorrow at 10. Wow. A lot of time to prepare. And then she said to me that, oh, by the way, we're not going to follow the rules of evidence. And you're going to get 30 minutes. Now, I'm going to suggest to you, if you get a notice less than 30 minutes before a hearing telling you about the rules and then telling you that you've got 30 minutes, that's not fair. You couldn't prepare for that, and that's not fair. And in fact, I don't know where Ms. Hillman came up with those rules, 30 minutes and no evidence. I think she just made them up. There's no published regulation. There's no published policy. The only policy Blue Valley has for hearings is in disciplinary, and this isn't disciplinary. So you have to have some sort of rules that govern this, but you don't have them. We don't have them. And I don't have them. And so now we turn around and we have this. We have this hearing, and you're deciding on the fly, Mr. Warren, how you want to conduct this. And I'm hearing it for the first time. I guess, did you know I'm only allowed 30 minutes, or did you know that?
I did know that that was going to be the rule for everybody because it was, I think, unclear how many folks were going to present.
Okay, all right. Well, and I don't know if they got your input or who's cooking the sausage, but that's what happened. But as you know, if you, when you try to present, you need to know what the rules are. I just asked you today, am I allowed to cross-examine? I mean, that's a very critical thing in due process. Wouldn't you agree? Mr. Warren?
Tell me, I'm sorry, I was reading your chat because you had sent me a.
Yeah, well, and that's another problem. I chatted. When does the meeting start? At 7:31. I got crickets. Nobody talks to me. Meeting started at 7:30. Why am I not in the meeting? Crickets. Nobody talks to me. Then Ms. Hillman gets on, and so we have that conversation. Yes, I'm frustrated. Everybody's frustrated. I get these emails at the last second. Here, you're going to do this less than 24 hours. I don't even know the rules of the game. I didn't even know this was going to be an evidentiary hearing. Didn't know. Got no notice. So where this is such, and I'm going to use some words that may not sound nice, but it's a sham. Sorry to hurt everybody's feelings, but this really isn't due process. This isn't what the legislature contemplated. But let's talk about rules of procedure. What are they? You don't know. Somebody gave me a couple of rules made up. There's nothing in the board policy that has it. So I don't know how to govern my conduct. You don't either. The board has not adopted any emergency rules procedure. And so part of that in SB 40 says that the Board of Education may adopt emergency rules procedure, which they haven't done, which I guess they should have, but they didn't, to facilitate the efficient adjudication of any hearing or question in this subsection, including but not limited to rules for consolidation of similar hearings. So what you all needed to do, if you wanted to consolidate all this like you've done, they needed to come up with an emergency rule that says, hey, we can lump all this in the same hearing and do it all at the same time, but you didn't do that. But yet you've done it. And so now it's, we're limited in time because you've dumped all this, the parties in one thing. So your consolidation is improper. There's no rule for that. So let's then talk about you, Mr. Warren. I don't know who you are in terms of your relationship to Blue Valley. You're a hearing officer and you're supposed to be impartial. You'd agree with me on that, wouldn't you?
And that's my attempt, sir.
Okay, and your firm, do you all provide services to Blue Valley? Have you in the past?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, and do you know how you got chosen as a hearing officer?
I really don't know anybody in the district other than I've had a brief professional meeting or two with Ms. Hillman where I've acted as a mediator on a couple of cases where she was involved. I think one after she was with the district and one when she was still in private practice.
And
So
you're being paid to do this, right?
yes, I'm charging my typical rate I do for mediations and arbitrations. Yes,
Hourly, like what, 450?
$400 an hour.
Okay. All right. So you're getting paid. So do you know anything about the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the IDA?
I really do not.
Yeah. Well, my grievance has a lot to do with that. And you saw that in my in the grievance that we sent. Has a lot to do with that. Silas is a special education. He's a special needs student governed by specific statutes of attendance. And so you're not really qualified. You don't know anything about that.
Well, I don't intend to be an expert on all those issues. That wasn't the intent of what I was hired for. I would say just briefly that when I read your material, it seemed to me that your grievance might be more related to an individual issue than the mask mandate generally because of those issues. I do have a grandson with significant disabilities, so I am familiar with it from the perspective as a grandparent, as you are. But no, I don't claim to be an expert on those issues. And I'm not a school lawyer, Mr. Baker, so I don't practice in that area. So
I get it. And if you were the Board of Education, they would have those resources to know an IDA and a special needs student and all those things. You don't have that. So I don't think you're qualified to hear my grievance. So having said all of that, I'm still objecting. I'm not waiving those objections. If you say, as you did to the others, all right, I've heard it, move forward. But here's what I'd like to do too, is apparently Mr. Schmidt, you're going to, the Blue Valley is going to provide some information or evidence. Mark Schmidt, I want to cross-examine him. I think he's going to be the guy. Blue Valley is going to talk to you about whether or not this is narrowly tailored and the least restrictive means. I think that's why he's here. And that's an evidentiary issue. And boy, oh boy, would I like to talk to him and ask him some questions, not generally, but why Silas has to wear a mask or a face shield, or why any particular student does. Okay, so we're going to talk about that analysis because the narrowly tailored and least restrictive means is as applied. It's as applied to the grievance. So he may want to talk in great generalities why they have to have masks, but what he's going to have to say to you today is, no, Silas McCormick must wear a mask. He must say that each one of these grievances must wear a mask. And he's not going to be able to do that. Why? Because they already provide exceptions. They provide a medical exception. They already provide exceptions for food and drink. They provide exceptions for going outside. Not everybody has to wear a mask at all times. So they're not going to be able to demonstrate that any one of these grievance children have to wear a mask or a face shield. They're not going to be able to do it, but I want to reserve my time, if you'll let me, to cross-examine any witness put on by Blue Valley, including Ms. Hillman. If she wants to provide evidence, I want to ask her questions.
All right, so what you're asking for is out of your 30 minutes to reserve some time for
I
cross-examination?
do now.
Yeah, okay.
Hopefully, I don't know if this counts as my 30 minutes because that's kind of a procedural objection, but
Well,
I don't see it.
I'm counting it as your 30 minutes and I have
Well,
you in I have
who
you
knew?
18, I have you 18 minutes in right now.
Oh, there you go.
Plus-
Well, here's some more rules that who knew, you know, so it, you know, I didn't know that. So I guess, all right. So are you gonna let me do that?
Yeah, but I have you 18 minutes and 44
Well,
seconds in
okay.
there.
All right.
So you
I'd
can do
rather-
that if you want to.
Sure. I'll just, you've got my email request. So that's in the evidence. I've got a sworn statement of Terry. I'll submit that to you as well. That explains her issues about this. Maybe I'll take 2 minutes. Under the Kansas IDA and under Blue Valley policy, and they've interlaced this with the mask requirement. Of course, Silas being special needs, he needs to see lips, he needs to see that. But the Blue Valley provides a medical, but they don't provide a religious exemption. My wife happens to have a religious beliefs about natural immunities, has to do with vaccines, has to do with her own personal body. And she's long experience with that. So masks and shields are contrary to that. They don't provide a religious exemption, but be that as it may, the IDA requires Terry to provide these special services to Silas. And under Blue Valley policy and under the statute, she can't do that her way. They will not let her do that in a religious environment. So during a religious activity, if Silas wants to get special needs services while he's reading Guardians of the Galaxy, Connect the Dot book, they'll give him special assistance that way. But if he's reading Jesus and his buddies, the disciples, they won't. It's unconstitutional, but they make him wear a mask. Terry can't homeschool because they won't provide those special services that they require Silas to be enrolled in Blue Valley. And the teachers that provide this special service has to be controlled by Blue Valley, and they will not provide it during any religious activity. And with that, then they require him to wear a mask. They require him to do that. They require Terry to wear a mask and all these things. Totally unconstitutional, but I'm going to reserve my time. You've got my email grievance, and I'll submit that affidavit to you, and I'll reserve the remainder of my time. If anyone wants to comment, including Ms. Hillman, as to I want to be able to ask her questions, or Mr. Schmidt, or anybody else. And I guess, will that come off their time, by the way, when they give comments like Ms. Hillman did? Does that come off Blue Valley's time? Do they only have 30 minutes? Let's be fair.
They have a total of 30 minutes as well.
Well, Ms. Hillman's already talked, so that you got to keep track of her.
I'm trying to keep track of everybody, including you.
Okay, good.
All right.
I want this goose and gander thing to be fair.
All right. Well, let's stop so you have some time, because I have you right now just about 22 minutes. So I'm going to stop your time. I got a chat message and I'm going to respond to that real quick here. I think Ms. Klingensmith sent me a message saying, didn't use all of my 30 minutes. Am I allowed to yield my remaining time to Mr. Baker? I appreciate the offer, but no, we're going to stick it to the 30 minutes per individual. But I do appreciate your offer, Ms. Klingensmith.
Well, and that makes my point about the rules. That's just another rule you made up and nobody knows. You know, you could say, yeah, you could. So here we go. So go ahead.
Well, I'm just doing the best I can along with everybody else on a brand new statute that may or may not have been written as specifically as we would like for the event we're in the middle of. So I'll do the best I can. I'm not charging any time right now, so I'm just telling you. All right. So
Mr. Warren, may I
Yes.
briefly respond by way of explanation again?
yes. Okay. Hang on a minute. Give me a second. I'm trying to make
Keep
sure.
track of her time.
I'm trying to keep track of everybody's time.
There you go.
Yesterday I was going to have a timekeeper. So now this is clearly more than my capabilities are.
Yeah. Well, there's no clock on the screen, so good luck.
All right. Well, I'll show you the clock I had for you so you can see it, Mr.
Oh,
Baker.
there you go.
I had you at 21 minutes, 51 seconds, 0.89. So
Wow.
as precise as I can be. So
All
I'm
right.
giving you the benefit of the doubt. I'm giving you an extra 89 tenths of a second. So
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
I try to be fair. Okay, Ms. Hillman, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Baker, you and I, we are familiar with each other through your vaccine litigation against the district. It's always lively to be with you, so thanks for being with us today. The district has extended a courtesy to you to attend this hearing. Frankly, you don't have standing to be here because you don't currently have a student enrolled in the district. You did have a student enrolled in the district. He's not been unenrolled by the district due to his vaccine status. In any event, there's one thing I think that Mr. Baker and I will agree on, that Senate Bill 40 is unconstitutionally vague. And so we are here today having a hearing in the most fair way possible. I engaged Mr. Warren to hold the hearing because I think he is a very fair and unbiased hearing officer. He has no affiliation with the district, and his firm has no affiliation with the district. I also would like to clarify the process. Mr. Warren is here to hear the facts and to make a recommendation to the board. The board will hold a special meeting with a quorum or more of board members. They are also going to watch a video of this hearing. So they will be well informed, and their decision will be well informed when they make it, and they will have a formal vote. Also, I would like to set some parameters on relevancy. I know, Mr. Baker, we're being lenient on rules of evidence, but this hearing is about the district's navigating change policy, and it's not about IDEA. If you believe your child has a medical exemption, that is something you could work with the district on if you like. Thank you, Mr. Warren.
All right, so okay. Trying to keep my time straight. Okay, so Mr. Baker's reserving about a little over 8 minutes, I guess, for cross-examination. So Ms. Hillman, I believe we're ready for your presentation now. And I have you at about 26 minutes now of time based on the two interviews that two interventions that you've made with the other time frame. So are you prepared?
I am prepared, Mr. Warren. I will try to respect my time limits, yes.
Okay, well, hang on a minute. Let me get reset here. Okay. All right, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Warren. First off, the district would like to thank you for being here today. I know you've now twice appeared for this hearing. We appreciate your time and your assistance with this process. I'm prepared to lead in with just a few opening comments about the district's policy and about Senate Bill 40. And then following my comments, I would be prepared to ask Dr. Mark Schmidt and Nurse Tara Asher and Dr. Andrew Demo to offer some testimony for you today.
Okay.
Kyle, could you put my presentation up, please?
Before you go further, Ms. Sherwood, court reporter, are you okay? Do you need a break?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right, I forgot to ask. I apologize.
No problem.
And Kyle, are you going to have to do the clicking for me?
Yes.
Next slide, please, Kyle. So, Mr. Warren, I suggest that before us today are three possible considerations. The first consideration is, do the complainants lack standing to request a hearing on the basis that there has been no board action taken since Senate Bill 40 was passed? The second consideration is, are these requests for hearing time barred under Senate Bill 40? And third, is the board's policy requiring masks in schools narrowly tailored to respond to the state of disaster emergency? And does it use the least restrictive means to keep students in school buildings full time? Next, Kyle. First, I would argue that Senate Bill 40 should not be applied retroactively. Senate Bill 40 was signed by Governor Kelly on March 24, 2021. It took effect on March 25, 2021. This law does not state that it is retroactive. The law in Kansas is clear that statutes generally operate prospectively unless clear legislative language indicates otherwise. And Mr. Warren, I would refer you to State of Kansas versus Gleason, 299 Can 1127. Next, Kyle. Because Senate Bill 40 does not indicate any intent to be applied retroactively under clearly established precedents, it should not be so applied. The board has taken no action since the passage of the law with regard to the navigating change policy. Therefore, complainants lack standing to request a hearing under Senate Bill 40. Next, even if it would be determined that Senate Bill 40 applies retroactively, the request for hearing should also be dismissed on the basis that they are time barred under Senate Bill 40. Senate Bill 40 provides that an employee, a student, or the parent or guardian of a student aggrieved by an action taken by the board could request a hearing by such action to contest the action within 30 days of the action. Next, the Blue Valley Board of Education adopted its navigating change policy, which does include the face mask requirement, on August 18, 2020, well over 7 months ago. As noted, Mr. Warren, in your packet under Exhibit 1, which includes the request for hearing subject today, the complainant's requests were all submitted well after the 30-day deadline. Next. However, even if it is determined that complainants have standing and that their requests are timely, the face mask mandate should be upheld on the basis that it meets the standards set forth in Senate Bill 40. Senate Bill 40, under Senate Bill 40, the complainants are entitled to relief if the hearing officer or later the court determines that the board policy about which they complain is not narrowly tailored to respond to the state of disaster emergency and does not use the least restrictive means to do so. This is the standard set forth in Senate Bill 40. Next. We do believe that the contested face mask requirement is narrowly tailored to respond to the state of disaster emergency and uses the least restrictive means to do so. Next. A little background to how we got here. On March 17, 2020, the state closed all K through 12 schools for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next. We learned a lot about how COVID-19 is transmitted from one person to another during that time. Today, we know that the primary source of spread is through respiratory droplets from the mouth and nose. As this information became available, the use of face masks became a widespread mitigation measure to reduce the transmission of the virus. Next. As summer neared an end, parents became understandably anxious for students to return to school, and the local school boards were given responsibility to determine how to educate kids while keeping students and staff safe. This was by no means a minor undertaking. Therefore, school boards turned to national, state, and local health guidance. Next. For the Blue Valley Board of Education, significant sources of guidance included the Centers for Disease Control, Johnson County Department of Health and Environment, and Children's Mercy Hospital. This guidance all consistently recommends using mitigation measures, including face masks, hand sanitation, and physical distancing to control the transmission of COVID-19 in school buildings. We believe these measures are less restrictive than virtual education, which may occur without these mitigation measures. Next. What is less restrictive than these mitigation measures, including face masks, to effectively reduce the spread of COVID-19 in schools without jeopardizing full-time in-person learning for Blue Valley students? Next. We will present Dr. Andrew Demo and Nurse Tara Asher to offer testimony regarding the use of face masks to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Next. I argue that in order to satisfy their burden, the complainants must present some evidence to show that there is a less restrictive means than the district's current mitigation efforts, which include masking, to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in Blue Valley schools while students attend full-time in-person learning. Next. Without effective mitigation measures in place, schools could experience widespread quarantines, COVID-19 exposures and transmission, classroom and building closures, and cancellation of extracurricular events. Is this unnecessary risk in the best interests of Blue Valley students? Next. Mr. Warren, I would like for you to also know that as of noon on Friday, the school district had received 90 parent guardian emails directed to the Blue Valley information line since the scheduling of this hearing. 78% of those emails were in favor of keeping the mask mandate in Blue Valley schools, while only 22% were not. Our community has expressed support for the mask mandate in schools in order to protect in-person learning and extracurricular activities. Thank you, and that's the end of my comments. If you're prepared, unless you have questions for me, Mr. Warren, I'm prepared to have Dr. Schmidt testify.
No, I have no questions. Proceed.
Dr. Schmidt, can you unmute yourself, please?
Of course.
Thank you. Would you please state your name for the record?
Yes, I'm Mark Schmidt.
Are you employed with the Blue Valley School District?
Yes, my title is Assistant Superintendent of Special Education Services.
Can you give us
Sure.
a description of your responsibilities here?
Sure. I'm in charge of special education gifted services. I oversee the health services in the school district, which includes school nurses. I supervise social worker services, also parents as teachers, and then also involved in district crisis management.
In your position with the district, do you make recommendations to the Board of Education that sometimes result in the formal board action which would adopt policy?
Yes, within those areas.
Can you describe the work done by administration during the spring and summer of 2020 to prepare for reopening of schools during the COVID-19 pandemic?
I'm going to try to be brief here because there was a lot of changing recommendations, and we were looking at a lot of different resources about what is best practice with this situation that we've never been faced with before. As you remember, schools were closed down completely, and so we were focused on how do we best educate students within this new environment that we were thrust into. As the year ended and summer began, we knew that we were going to need to be prepared for three different scenarios. One where students were going to be in virtual education, one where they might be in hybrid, which would allow for greater social distancing, and then finally to prepare to get back to in-person services if we were able to do that. And as a result of that, we did propose to the Board of Education, and they adopted back before the school year began, a learning mode, recommendations that included the learning mode and how we get to each learning mode, physical distancing, sanitation procedures, ventilation, cohort groups, masking requirements for staff and students.
And what health guidance was considered in making those recommendations?
Oh, man. There are a lot of different agencies that we typically turn to that have greater expertise than a school district in dealing with this. So we looked at the CDC guidance. We looked at the Department of Education. They had put together a large set of guidance for us to follow to be prepared for the school year. We also consulted with the Johnson County Health Department, Department of Health and Environment. We also worked with Children's Mercy Health Systems. They put out a lot of really good guidance that kind of pulled things together for the scientific basis. And then we also had, just reached out to some of our patrons that also had some expertise.
Did all of the medical and scientific guidance that the district relied on include mask recommendations in schools?
Every single one.
Are there other recommendations included within all of that guidance?
Oh, absolutely. It really was about masking, maintaining social distancing the best we can within a school system, sanitation that would include both, disinfecting the school each evening and during the day, and also items. If there's any single-use items that a student might touch, for example, a library book, then how do we disinfect it? And then also hand washing and use of hand sanitizer.
Were the recommendations included within all of the health guidance you all consulted? Were those recommendations included in the Navigating Change policy, which was formally adopted by the Blue Valley Board of Education on August 18, 2020?
Yes.
Dr. Schmidt, in front of you, you have a packet of exhibits. Exhibit 2, you will find the board minutes.
Okay.
Do you recognize Exhibit 2 to be the board minutes memorializing the board's formal adoption of the Navigating Change policy?
Yes.
Is it dated August 18, 2020?
Yes.
Also in front of you is Exhibit 3. Do you recognize that to be at least 2 pages of 12 or 1400 page Navigating Change policy?
Yeah, it's certainly not the whole document, but yes, the 2 pages, yes.
Okay, thank you. I believe the first page is at the cover page.
Yeah, and the second one has the mask,
Okay.
information about masking.
Thank you. Would you just briefly explain for the hearing officer the mitigation efforts currently in place in schools to allow students to participate in full-time in-person learning?
Yeah, it's, like I said earlier, it has to do with masking of all students and staff to prevent the spread. It has to do with sanitation measures, which would include the cleaning that's done in the evening and during the day, the sanitation of individual items, providing disinfectant in each school for each classroom, social distancing the best we can again. And right now, it's been providing vaccines or providing opportunities for staff to have vaccines as soon as they were able.
In your opinion, are these mitigation efforts, including face masks, necessary to keep kids in school buildings for the remainder of the school year?
We're back in school right now, and I believe those measures were instrumental in getting us back to school full time. And quite honestly, I think those need to stay in place so that we can stay in school and we don't have any student missing any time due to quarantine or the spread of COVID.
In your role for the district, are you aware of any less restrictive means to effectively control the spread of COVID-19 in Blue Valley schools, other than the current mitigation efforts in place, including the face masks?
What we have before us and what the board was presented with was the best recommendations made by folks that have studied this in-depthly. And so, no, I don't know of any way that we could maintain our safe environment and have in-person school other than what we are doing. It is, in my opinion, the best practice to keep kids safe and in school.
Are you concerned that there may be mass quarantines and even possible school closures if students are widely unmasked in schools?
I believe there will be additional quarantines, and we will have students that miss school just based on the way that quarantines are given, and also what we've seen in spread of COVID within our schools when somebody is not able to wear a mask and they are positive. So yes, I believe that quarantines will increase, and that could result in closing of certain classrooms or theoretically of an entire building.
Has the Board of Education taken any action with regard to the navigating change policy since March 25, 2021?
No, they have not.
Mr. Baker has provided some information in this hearing today about, I believe it's his grandson. I understand he's the guardian of the child. Is that child currently enrolled in the school, in Blue Valley School District?
As of last night, when I checked our records, no.
Does the district have a process in place to provide mask exemptions for students who qualify under the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act?
Yes, they do.
Thank you, Dr. Schmidt. I don't have any further questions.
Okay, your time's cooking. You better go.
Okay. The district next calls Tara Asher.
Mr. Warren, I haven't had a chance to cross-examine, but if they're going to present, then I guess I can ask questions at the end, correct?
This was my plan, was to have them all testify and then you cross-examine and use the rest of your time then. Is that okay?
Okay, that's fine. How much time do they have left?
Well, I wrote that down. Hang on a minute here. Okay. I had you down with, was it 8 minutes, and it was basically, didn't I round you up to 9 minutes? Wasn't that what I said?
No, I'm asking for them. They just gave a,
Oh, how much time do they have left?
yeah, how much time do they have?
Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. They have about a little over 7.5 minutes left.
All right.
Do I get an additional 30 seconds, Mr. Warren, for Mr. Baker's interruption?
Well, I stopped the clock here, so I'm trying
kidding.
to keep track.
I'm just
Yeah,
kidding. We'll move along as quickly as we can. Thank you.
All right, so, okay.
Here we go.
Go ahead.
Ms. Asher, will you please state your name for the record?
My name is Tara Asher.
And are you employed by the school district?
Yes, I am.
What is your position with the district?
I am a health services coordinator for the Blue Valley School District.
Would you please describe your education and training?
I have a bachelor's degree in nursing. I am a licensed nurse. Also, I have a master's in science in nursing and public health, emphasis school health.
And in front of you, Ms. Asher, is Exhibit 4. Is that your CV?
Yes.
Mr. Warren, you should have this packet as well, and everyone else should have it too right now. And from your CV, it appears that you've been a registered nurse since 2005?
Correct.
And you're still a registered nurse, correct?
Correct.
Okay. In reliance on your education and training as a registered nurse, have you made recommendations to the Board of Education with regard to COVID-19 mitigation measures in Blue Valley schools?
Yes.
Did those recommendations include face masks in schools?
Yes, they did.
What health information did you rely on in addition to your training and background to provide recommendations to the board?
The school district relied on information and guidance from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, Children's Mercy Hospital, that included infectious disease doctors, pediatricians, also the Johnson County Department of Health and Environment, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment as well.
In front of you is Exhibit 5. Does this include medical guidance that you referred to when advising the board on the return to school?
Yes, it does.
In your opinion, as a registered nurse, Are face masks necessary or a necessary mitigation measure to keep kids in school buildings for the remainder of the school year?
Yes, it does.
Can you explain what happens as far as quarantines when there is a COVID-19 exposure in a classroom and students are masked as opposed to when they are not masked?
When students are masked in our school district, we do work with the Johnson County Health Department in determining risk for transmission in our buildings, and individuals who are masked, there is less quarantines issued by the Johnson County Department of Health and Environment. If individuals are not masked, that would lead to greater number of potential quarantines within our building that could lead to greater quarantines to classroom possible shutdown, also could lead to school shutdown and closures of activities.
As a registered nurse, are you aware of any less restrictive means to effectively control the spread of COVID-19 in Blue Valley schools other than the current mitigation efforts in place, including the face masks?
No, I'm not.
With limited time, Mr. Warren, I'll move on. Thank you, Ms. Asher, and the district would call Dr. Andrew Demo.
Hi there.
Good morning, Dr. Demo.
morning.
Thank you for being here with us. We appreciate your time greatly. Would you please state your name?
Yeah, my name is Andrew Demo.
Dr. Demo, are you a board certified pediatrician?
I am.
Would you please briefly describe your background training, your education?
Sure, I completed 4 years of undergraduate studies at the University of Kansas and studied biology. I then completed my medical training, 4 years of medical school at the University of Kansas here in Kansas City. And then I did 3 years of residency graduate medical education at Children's Mercy Hospital. And now I've been a pediatrician in private practice for coming up on 3 years.
Okay. In front of, well, I don't know that you have it in front of you. Exhibit 5 in front of the hearing officer, or excuse me, Exhibit 6 is Dr. Demo's CV. Did you send me that CV, Dr. Demo?
I did.
Okay. Please describe briefly the work you did at the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic to prepare to treat COVID positive patients.
Sure. So when the pandemic started 13 months ago, myself and all my colleagues kind of went all in on learning anything and everything we could about COVID-19. As a pediatrician, I have an obligation to my patients, to my families, to stay informed, to reach out to the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, those organizations that provide evidence-based studies regarding what we know about COVID and ways that we can mitigate the spread. And so I get asked about that every single day. And that's why I continue to stay up to date on the latest data.
I show you have about 3 minutes.
All right. How is COVID spread from one person to another?
So it can be spread through contact with contaminated surfaces. And that's initially what we thought, how it spread the most. And that's why at the onset, there were some people that said, well, maybe masks aren't as helpful as we thought. But then as we learned more about this virus, we know that by and large, the main way it is spread is from an infected individual excreting respiratory droplets to a close contact or direct contact. So as I tell my families, it's all about the air you share. So these respiratory droplets are excreted when someone coughs, when someone laughs, when someone talks, laughs, or even breathes.
Are face masks necessary to help control the spread of COVID-19?
Yes.
As a board certified pediatrician, are you aware of anything less restrictive than the current mitigation efforts in place in Blue Valley schools to control the spread of COVID-19 in school buildings?
I am not.
Thank you, Dr. Demo. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Warren, I know I'm short on time. We have an affidavit also from Elizabeth Holshoe, who is an epidemiologist with Johnson County Department of Health. I was prepared to have that read into the record today. I may have limited time to do that. I have provided a copy of this affidavit to you and to the other parties.
Yeah, you don't need to read it. You don't need to read it in the record for me.
Okay, I would like to offer it. It is
Okay.
also supportive of the face mask and talks about the work Johnson County Department of Health and Environment has done with the Blue Valley School District to ensure that our students and staff are safe in our school buildings.
Okay. You have about a minute left.
That's really all I have. I'm just here to present to you this information and to argue that I indeed believe on behalf of the Blue Valley Board of Education that the mitigation efforts they have in place under the Navigating Change policy are the least restrictive means to keep our students and staff safe in school buildings and to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. We're all ready to see face mask requirements lifted because I know we're all tired of wearing them. But the priority today for the district and the priority always for the Board of Education and the district is to keep our students and staff safe and to provide a healthy learning environment.
Okay, well, by my count, you made it with 15 seconds to spare. So
Phew.
I'm sure we're all tired of wearing masks. I think we can all agree to that. Okay, so Mr. Baker, let me stop here and get started again here with my time. You wanted to reserve, and I think we have about 9 minutes left. Is that what I told you? I'm sorry, Mr. Baker's muted, so can you guys unmute him there? There
I
we
had
go.
questions for Dr. Smith.
Okay, did I tell you, was it about 9 minutes? Is that what I said a minute ago?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, all right, I'm just trying to keep track here. Hang on just a second. You want to cross on Dr. Schmidt. Give me
Yeah.
a second. Let me get ready.
Mr. Warren, I want to make sure that we keep this cross-examine relevant and limited to the issue of the Navigating Change policy today.
Well, Ms. Hillman doesn't get to establish relevancy. That's for you to determine, Judge. I don't agree with her about what the grievance of my clients or what is relevant. So just by her saying it doesn't make it so.
Okay, well, all I would ask is let's remain respectful and proceed.
Dr. Smith, you've not testified under oath today, have you?
These kind of hearings are rarely done, in my experience, are not.
The answer is no, you're not testifying under oath. Correct? Correct.
Yes,
Now, you will agree that Silas Ford Baker has an IEP that's given to him by Blue Valley, correct?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a pill here, but Dr. Schmidt has certain obligations under FERPA to the student at issue who currently is not a student enrolled in the district. And I want to be very careful that we don't violate his privacy rights. So Mr. Baker, is it your position that you're waiving those FERPA rights for your child?
No, my position is this, Ms. Hillman. You already raised the issue of his enrollment. And his enrollment is governed under a different statute that has to do with IEPs and special education. You interjected that position, ma'am. So I'm entitled now to explore that and then offer evidence about why Silas is still enrolled and that Blue Valley has a duty ongoing to provide these IEP services to Silas. But that's something you started, not me. And I hope this doesn't come off my time, Your Honor.
I'm trying to cut off the time here. I'm doing the best I can.
All right.
Is there,
Before we start, I think my understanding is the concern of the school district is that your grandchild's privacy and privacy rights in this act and all that I frankly don't claim to be an expert in might be violated, and they're wanting to avoid somehow breaching your grandchild's privacy, Mr. Baker. So that's my understanding of what the concern is. And I don't know where you're going with the question.
Well, I can tell you where I'm going with it, Your Honor, because they say he's not enrolled. Mr. Schmidt then has to have a factual basis for that. Whether he is enrolled has everything to do with his IEP. So you can't just parse that out.
No, I understand.
They brought it up.
As long as there's an understanding, and you don't have to call me Your Honor because I'm not a judge, but I appreciate it nonetheless. I like that. That happens to me all the time in mediations, and I always have to tell people you don't have to say that.
I can call you whatever you want, Mr. Warren, but okay. But this is
but
an
no-
open records meeting theoretically. So the legislature has done that. So I don't need to waive anything or say I'm waiving anything. If Mr. Schmidt isn't going to answer the question, then he won't answer the question. But I'm not constrained by what Ms. Hillman wants me to waive or not waive today.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Warren, I have a resolution for this, I think. I do agree with Mr. Baker. We did raise the fact that the child is not enrolled currently in the school district. I believe it's fair for Dr. Schmidt to respond to questions regarding enrollment. I would ask that Dr. Schmidt not use the child's name.
Well, I'm using it and I have used it.
And that's your right.
It does,
Well-
it certainly doesn't change that reality. Okay, well, I mean, it is what it is. And so.
Okay, so you want to go back on the, so Dr. Schmidt, Silas Ford Baker has an IEP that's given to him by Blue Valley, correct?
I can't comment about an individual student.
You're refusing to answer this question,
I cannot comment about an individual student.
but you did. You said he wasn't enrolled, correct?
Enrollment was different.
You say that. And he was enrolled as a special education student. But you're not going to answer that, correct?
That's correct.
Well, Mr. Warren, you can make him answer.
I actually don't think I do have the power to make him answer if he believes it's a privileged issue. So,
Well, okay, so I'm going to object to him not answering because it's
Yeah,
unfair for him to say he's not enrolled, but then let's explore the factual basis for that. He's not going to say it. All right,
Yeah.
let's go on. If Silas has an IEP by Blue Valley is the only one that can change it, correct? That's a hypothetical.
Yeah, if a student has an IEP, then there is a process laid out by IDEA and the Kansas Department of Education in which we go through as an IEP team with input from parents in order to make any kind of modifications to
That's
that.
right. And if Silas wants to attend and get special services from Blue Valley, he has to wear a mask, correct?
If he's enrolled and he does not have a medical exemption, we would expect for him to wear a mask like other students. As
Yeah,
as
and he has to be enrolled to get the IEP services, correct?
he needs to be enrolled, and then the IEP team and the administrative group administration decides where those services take place.
Can he get his IEP services without being enrolled?
No student has any services in our school district unless they're enrolled.
Thank you. So he has to be enrolled to get the services. He has to wear a mask to get the services. What is your factual basis? Are you claiming that the Bakers withdrew Silas from Stillwell Elementary? Or do you know?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay, so Blue Valley could have withdrawn Silas from the enrollment. You don't know one way or the other, correct?
I'm sorry, Mr. Baker. I'm not a part. Earlier, Ms. Hillman mentioned that there's another lawsuit going on. I don't believe I've been involved with some of that, but I can't really comment about it without relating.
So do you have any facts to say? If I tell you as an affirmative fact, the Bakers did not withdraw Silas from enrollment at Stillwell Elementary, do you have any facts today to controvert that?
I don't feel I'm able to answer that question unless Ms. Hillman tells me differently.
All right, so none. All right, now, you are not claiming that any of these grievances must wear a mask in order for your mask policy to survive, correct?
Okay, can you restate that question?
Sure. Blue Valley provides exceptions to the mask and shield requirement now, don't you?
Yes, through a process that includes a medical recommendation.
And what do you do with that child? What means would you use then to educate the child not having a shield or mask?
We would serve the student without the mask or shield.
How?
they wouldn't wear the mask.
And go to school personally, physically, right?
Yes.
Well, why can't, so that's at least a lesser restrictive means that you could give to all these grievances, including Silas. Isn't that correct?
My understanding, and as I read the various regulations and recommendations from the state of Kansas, is that in order to comply with ADA, we needed to make mask exemptions for medical reasons. However, a mask exemption made for medical reasons does not open up the district for anybody to choose, to allow anybody for any reason to not wear a mask. That would defeat the purpose of the mask.
We're talking about the least restrictive means. Blue Valley has a means to educate a child today without a mask and without a shield. You've already admitted that. Why can't you do that for Silas? It's just a policy. You can do it. Why don't you do it? Would the mask policy fail if you let one more student attend without a mask or a parent attend without a mask? No.
In general, the mask policy would fail if we did not uphold the mask policy. We're not talking about one student. We're talking about multiple students.
No, we're talking about one student. I have a grievance today. This isn't a class action. This is a grievance about my son and my wife, whom I represent. We have a grievance that your policy says that Silas has to attend school with a mask, that Terry has to attend that school with a mask. Why can't you, why would your mask policy fail if you just let those two attend school without a mask?
Mr. Baker, and I need to defer to Ms. Hillman on this, but my understanding is that this hearing is about the school board policy and not the implementation of the school policy based on an individual student.
Least restrictive and less restrictive means and all those things. And you gave answers to that. And I'm asking you the same questions. Now you don't want to answer.
No, I'm answering it. My understanding
Okay,
is
so is there any reason why the mask policy would fail if one more student, such as Silas Ford McCormick and his mother, were not required to wear a mask, like you give exceptions to other students for medical reasons?
yes.
Why would giving one more exemption cause that entire mask policy to fail in its purpose?
Mr. Baker, you have about a minute left just to give you some warning. Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. Any idea, Dr. Schmidt?
Absolutely, because we make policy for all students, and when we make that exception for one family for non-medical reasons, then that can bring down the entire policy.
Just for one. I'm not talking about everybody, just one more. Would it fail just one more?
Yes, because when we make that exception for one, we're making that exception for.
No, you're not. No, just make it for one. You're adding something in there I'm not asking about. This isn't a class action. I'm not asking for relief for any other student other than Silas Ford Baker and Terry Baker, just those two. And you're saying the entire mask policy would fail? How many have medical exemptions now?
I don't have that information.
More than one?
Okay, Mr. Baker, your time's up.
Mr. Warren, I have 15 seconds left. May I redirect very quickly?
Sure. Give me a second. Let me reset here so you don't go over.
And I
Go ahead.
Am I on the clock?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Schmidt, did we receive a communication from either Mr. or Mrs. Baker advising the district that their child would not be attending school here?
Can I answer that?
He refused to answer that, Judge. Now he's going to answer it.
Can I answer?
I object, Judge.
Go ahead, Dr. Schmidt.
Yes, we did.
Thank you, Dr. Schmidt.
I want to follow up on that.
Mr. Warren,
Okay.
Mr. Warren, I will state that this Senate Bill 40 hearing the purpose of it is to address the policy as it applies district-wide.
She has raised a standing issue. She's now asked him to answer a question that he refused to answer me, and now she circled back and now he answers it. I have a question for.
Actually, Mr. Baker, I asked Mrs. Hillman's advice on whether I could answer.
Yeah,
but you didn't
okay,
allow
Judge,
answer.
I want to ask him this.
Oh,
On,
wait just a second. Okay, let me do this. I'm gonna let you follow up on that with a question, and then that'll be it, okay?
Dr. Schmidt, I asked you for any factual understanding. You provided none. Now you say in response to Ms. Hillman that somehow the Baker sent a letter. What did that letter or email say? That you say they withdrew Silas from attendance.
I don't have the email in front of me, but that was the gist of the letter, the email, yes.
I'm going to read you an email that I sent to Ms. Thompson after she sent a letter that you all were withdrawing Silas. And I wrote this on October 22nd, 2/20. And I said, Terry received this letter yesterday. I am not sure where you obtained your assumption, but it is incorrect. If you have some communication, the Silas is enrolled, that Terry has subsequently withdrawn his attendance, please bring it to my attention. With your letter, it would be assumed that Blue Valley is now denying services to Silas. We did not withdraw. And when she said we did, we immediately told you all that he wasn't. Now, he's not unenrolled. We did not. If he's unenrolled, you did that. He's now truant. And if you're not providing services, it's not because we didn't enroll or disenroll him. You all did that. And I'll provide that to you, Mr. Warren, because we did not unenroll Silas at all.
Mr. Baker, if you live in the school district, I would you please come enroll.
No, he's already enrolled, Dr. Schmidt. He's already there. He's already enrolled.
All right. We're done. We're done. Thanks, everybody. Okay. It's my understanding that we have heard everyone. If I'm incorrect, let me know. Otherwise, the hearing is concluded. But go ahead, Ms. Hillman, what were you going to say? You're muted now.
Sorry, I was only going to thank you for your time today, Mr. Warren.
Well, I thank you to everyone. I know there are a lot of people watching, and I appreciate everybody's time and interest. I know this is something that everybody's concerned about and interested in, and everybody has a lot of opinions. And I hope I've been fair to everybody. I've done my best. So I appreciate everybody that's participated. Thank you all. And from my perspective, the hearing is concluded.
Thank you.